Welcome to bongosikha. Today I am going to discuss the interstate relations. Earlier I have discussed about the center-state relations, but it's very important to know the interstate relations. Why it is important? Because the successful functioning of a federal system in India depends not only on the peaceful correlation and harmonious relation between the center and the states, but also between the interstates. That is why the constitution makes provisions for the interstate relations or the interstates committee. So these provisions are as follows: that adjudication of the interstate water disputes and coordination through interstate councils and mutual recognition of public acts, records, judicial proceedings, and freedom of trade, commerce, and intercourse within the interstates, within the states. Intercourse means the movement of goods from one place to another. And apart from these provisions, the Parliament has also established zonal council for the smooth functioning, for the good cooperation and coordination, to develop good cooperation and coordination among the interstates. So first I am going to discuss about the interstate water disputes. Article 263 of the Constitution discusses about the Interstate Water Disputes Act. So, based on these provisions, that Parliament may, by law, adjudicate water disputes that regarding the distribution, use, and control of the river and the river valley, and Parliament may, by law, also declare that neither the Supreme Court nor any other court is to exercise any jurisdiction to such type of dispute. So, under these provisions, the Parliament has enacted two acts: the River Boards Act 1956 and the Interstate Water Disputes Act 1956. The River Boards Act recommended for the river boards for the adjudication of the water disputes, for the control of the river and the river valley between the states. And the river boards are established by the central government, but on the request of the state governments consider to advise them. And the Interstate Water Disputes Act 1956 empowers the central government to set up an ad hoc tribunal for the settling of the disputes regarding the use, distribution, and the control of the river and the river valley. Here I want to tell that tribunal means a special court or group of people who are officially chosen, especially by the government, and the decision of the tribunal would be final and binding upon the parties to this dispute, and neither the Supreme Court nor any other court is to exercise any jurisdiction to this dispute under this tribunal in this act. So this is about the interstate water disputes, adjudication of the interstate water disputes. Now the next provision, that is interstate council. Article 263, remember these articles very carefully, because articles are very important and short questions comes in the prelims mostly based on these articles. So Article 263 contemplates the establishment of the interstate council to coordinate the interstate water disputes, for the coordination of the interstate water disputes, and between the center and the states and among the states. So the president is empowered to establish the interstate council if he feels at any time that public interest would be better served by the establishment of such a council. So the president is also empowered to define the nature of the duties, its organization, and its procedure. But though the president is empowered to define the duties of the council, but still Article 263 specifies the manners in which the tasks can be assigned to it. These are as follows: that inquiring into and advising upon disputes which may arise between the states, and secondly, that investigating and discussing subjects in which the center and the states have a common interest, and thirdly, giving prior recommendation on such subjects for the better coordination of policy and action on it. So next I am coming to discuss about the establishment of the Interstate Council. Thus, the Sarkaria Commission between the center, the Sarkaria Commission between the center and the states relations 1983 to 1988 made a strong recommendation between the regarding the Interstate Water Disputes Act, the Interstate Council, that made a strong recommendation regarding this. So that council under Article 263, that the Sarkaria Commission recommended that under Article 263 of the Constitution, that Interstate Council would be constituted, and they also recommended that in order to distinguish the Interstate Council from other bodies that are also established under the same article, Article 263, it is better to give a new name to this council, that is the Intergovernmental Council, and assigned the duties as per clauses B and C of the Article 263, that is that investigating and discussing any subjects in which the central and the states have a common interest, and thirdly, giving prior importance on such recommendations, particularly for the coordination of the policy, better coordination of policy and action on it. So that in pursuance of the recommendations made by the Sarkaria Commission, the Janata Dal government headed by VP Singh established the Interstate Council in 1990, and it consists of the following members: the Prime Minister as the chairman, the governors of all states under President's rule, the chief ministers of all states, the administrators of all union territories, and 6 union cabinet ministers, including the Home Minister. And the Interstate Council is a recommendatory body to make adjudications of water disputes between the interstates, between the center states and the center union territories. So its functions are as follows: that right now I have discussed that discussing and inquiring any subjects in which the center and the states have a common interest, and thirdly, that to give prior recommendations on such matters, on such things that which have a better coordination of policy and action on it, and deliberating upon such other matters of general interest to the states as may be referred to it by the chairman. So there is also a standing committee of the Interstate Council. Standing committee, and it is composed of the following members: the 9 chief ministers, the union home ministers, and the 5 union cabinet ministers. And its task is a continuous consultation and processing of matters for the consideration of the council. Apart from this, the Interstate Council is also headed by a secretariat, which is called the Interstate Council Secretariat, and there is it works under the secretary as the government of India, and it was established in the year 1991. Next, I am going to discuss the third provision, that is the mutual recognition of the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings. So, under the Constitution, the jurisdiction of each state is confined to its own territory. Hence, it may be possible that the recognition of the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of one state may not be accepted in another state. To avoid such difficulties, the Constitution contains the full faith and credit clause in the following manner. So now I am going to discuss that full faith and credit, in what ways the Constitution has provided. So, firstly, that full faith and credit is to be given to the throughout the territory of India to all public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of the center and states as well as states. So, the expression that public act refers both the executive and legislative action of the government, and the expression that public records includes that any register, any official books, any records which has been completed by a public servant during the service, during the discharge of his duties, um, uh, um, of his official duties. So this is the first clause. And secondly, the manner in which and the method in which these public acts, records, and judicial proceedings are to be proved and their effect determined would be considered as per the law of the parliament. So this is the second clause. And the third clause, the final judgments and orders of the civil courts are applicable for execution within the territory of India, in any part of the territory of India. There is no need of any fresh suit upon that final judgment. But this is applicable only to civil judgments and not to the criminal judgments. So this is the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings. Now I am going to discuss that interstate trade and commerce, that fourth provisions which is made by the constitution, that articles 301 to articles 307 part 13 of the constitution deals with the freedom of the trade, commerce, and intercourse within the territory of the India. Intercourse means the movement of the goods from one place to another. So here I am going to discuss that Article 301 declares the freedom of trade, commerce within the territory of India. And the reason or the logic behind this provision is to break the barriers between the states with a view to create one view and to encourage the flourishing of the freedom of trade, commerce, and intercourse within the territory of India. So, the freedom guaranteed by under Article 301 is absolute freedom, but except those which are contained in the provisions 302 to 305 per 13 of the constitution. So what are those provisions? So parliament can impose any restriction on the freedom of the trade and commerce and intercourse within the state or within the territory of the India in the sake of the public interest. The state legislature can impose any restriction upon the freedom of the trade and commerce in the public interest. But a bill for this purpose can be introduced in the legislature only with the prior approval or prior assent of the president. Next, the state can impose duties on the goods imported from the other states or the union territories similar to that goods which are produced in that state. So this is another thing, and this provision prohibits the state from the imposition of the discriminatory taxes. And fourthly, the freedom under Article 301 is subject to nationalization laws. Nationalization laws means that laws providing monopolies in favor of the states as well as the nation. So next, zonal councils. The zonal councils are the statutory bodies. It is not constitutional body, and the bodies, the zonal councils are established by an act of the parliament, that's the States Reorganization Act of 1956. The act divides the country into 5 zones: central, eastern, western, northern, and southern, and for each zone a zonal council for each zone. So now the zonal council consists of the members. The zonal council consists of the following members: Home Minister of the central government, to other ministers from the states of that particular zone, the chief ministers of that particular zone, the administrators of the union territories of that zone. Next, the objectives of the functions of the zonal councils in detail are as follows. So, what are those? To achieve an emotional integration of the country and to help in arresting the growth of self-acuteness, parochialism, regionalism, linguism, and particularistic trends. Next, help in reorganization after effects of the partition, so that the economic and the social advancement can take place at the same time simultaneously, and they can synchronize. And fourthly, to enable the center and the states to cooperate with each other, and in social and the economic matters. And next, to help the center and the states to build mutual cooperation between them to execute the major developmental projects and to maintain a sort of political equilibrium throughout the regions of the country. Next, that Northeastern Council. In addition to the zonal councils, as I mentioned right now, there is also a Northeastern Zonal Council which was established by the Parliament by the Act of the Northeastern Council Act of 1971. This consists of the 9 member states. They are the Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Sikkim, and Tripura. Its functions are similar to that of the zonal councils, only with few additions. So this is about the interstate relations and everything I have discussed. Thank you.